Hiya! So my name's Rhiannon and I'm making this pretty embarrassing video just to kind of show people my GCSE sketchbook and how I managed to get a grade 9. I'd rather not make this. I don't normally like to kind of show off my art that much. It's a very personal thing to me. But I used YouTube a lot to give me some inspiration because although we were the first year through the new GCSE, it really helped to look at other people's for inspiration, especially A-level sketchbooks. I really would recommend that. I'm probably just going to go through my sketchbook, give out maybe 1 or 2 pointers, and yeah. Okay, so the topic I picked was human figure. It's my favourite thing to draw and I just thought it suited me the best. I had to explain why I picked it, and on the right hand side in the page after, I kind of just researched the whole idea of it. People did copy my first collage here, but it doesn't really matter that much because you only get originality marks really in your final piece. And on the left you can see a girl with kind of a white line down her face, and I linked to this collage later on because my art teacher advised me to. I also did a mind map, but it just to kind of go through the entire subject. My first artist research page was on Leonardo da Vinci, and I did artist copies of secondary sources. Here's The Baby in the Womb. One of my other sketchbooks was Contained Spaces, and I'd drawn that baby a lot, so I kind of knew how to. On the left is another secondary source of a skull, and it's the thing I'm most proud of in the sketchbook actually. But I realised I needed to do some primary sources, so here's the picture of my sister. And like the collage, it has the white line along the face. Now, I explain everything I do in annotations. It's not neat, but I do because I know it's needed. I also did some more photography. I have the luxury of having a photographer as my dad, so I had the access to lots of cameras, and I copied it out on the bottom left. Here's my second artist research page. It's Pablo Picasso, and the presentation's edgy but not easy to read. In one art lesson, my teacher decided to basically, he made us draw lots and lots of still life things in timed, and it worked out really well. So these next 4 pages are just full of it, and the first 2 just took a couple of seconds. Now the picture on the left, I struggled to open. I hate it. I hate it so much, it's gross. But you need to add as much art as you can, even if you hate it. And that little picture there I took on my phone, really simple, just quickly, and I got marks for it. And I added a filter on Word in the background. And again, I annotated it. You kind of just got to explain everything you do as if you're talking to a toddler. Now, here's my first use of kind of mixed media and blocks. This is the whole time I got my idea for my final piece. I already figured it out, but I knew I had to investigate more. So here, I researched this artist, whose name I'm not going to try and pronounce, and basically I describe her work here, and then I do some copies of secondary sources. You need to do a mixture of secondary and primary, mainly primary, but still some secondary. So I copied 2 of the eyes. They actually took a while, much longer than the watercolour. And so that's a picture of my friend AJ's eye I took with my phone. I investigated different mediums for taking pictures too. And here's a quick watercolour I did on lunch. See, I spent a lot of time in the art room at lunch. I didn't really do anything, just kind of lay out my sketchbook to make it look a bit neater. Now, I got bored one day and decided to use green ink to kind of doodle, and I decided to add it in my sketchbook because of it. So all of these are magazines because I wanted to add some more secondary. I always tried to switch between secondary and primary. So I used Grey's Anatomy, the book, and copied some of the images with pen and ink, and I just kind of experimented with different types of ink and the way to use it. So that's fine liner. These are some, that is bamboo stick ink. Now here's where I start planning, quote unquote, my final piece. See, I already knew what I wanted to do, and I do a little Venn diagram to investigate my artist. I tried to summarise my work, and on the right I do a pretend kind of process, because I already knew what I wanted to do, but you've got to show a process, you've got to like show your thinking, and this had kind of quickly went through my head. So on the left I did a quick copy in fine liner, a bit sporadically as it went out, and on the right I did more investigating into the different types of ink. So my favourite one's actually the middle one, the bamboo stick, but I decided to use a biro for my actual final piece because I had more control. The one on top is disgusting, look at the teeth. But on the left I annotate what I'm doing, why I'm investigating, and I also do explain why I decided to use black and white rather than colour ink, because I do investigate that too. Now here's another idea. So I wanted to like layer up things, so I did bamboo again just to finalise why I decided on biro, and the red paint was really easy to do. Now here's where I move on to emotions. This is my whole idea behind my final piece. Ignore the sketch, it's the worst one in the book, but I took pictures of myself with my dad's camera, and I just tried to draw and explain different emotions and why I want to base my final piece off this. Your final piece should have a meaning, so for me it was how people hide their emotions and they put on false exteriors. So I did another one for sadness, which I did with fine liner. The other one was with biro. I go into all of the depth with this and the annotations, and here I take some photos of myself with my phone with the different moods ready for my final piece. I wanted to do a self-portrait. Not many people do them. It's quite embarrassing, you can tell the last one, but I don't know, it was easier. My friends wouldn't really want to, and you can see there, that's me. Like, I never had a hole punch or anything, so I just had to kind of cut through my pages. Now I made this on Photoshop, and I labelled each picture with the like layer it was on the left, and then below it I explained what it was, how it all made up of a million emotions, how it's kind of like fundamental human nature, things like that. It's all in reality I just wanted to draw this, but you have to give it some meaning for the examiner. So I didn't finish this, but I pretended, oh, it's just a rough sketch, and I pretended it took 3 hours, which it did not, it took more to do that. So I was already panicking for my 10-hour exam, in which I'd only managed to do 5 boxes in an A4 thing. So I kind of talk about what I want to do in the actual exam, my plan for it, etc, etc. So in the end I actually did decide to trace it before doing it. Here I kind of wanted to show you that you shouldn't focus on filling, well no, you should try and do as much work as possible, and I wish I'd filled my sketchbook, but it's not that padded and things like that. I didn't focus on padding and all that stuff. I kind of just tried to have fun with it and see where it went. This bit's here, my A3 sheet, I traced and copied, and here's my final piece. This is the one I did in 10 hours, and I'm really happy with it. Don't get me wrong, there's bits I can always see which are kind of wrong with it, but that's what, in the end, I made with my sketchbook, and I think that's what gave me my grade 9. Hopefully this helps some people, and yeah, that was my grade 9 exam sketchbook, and I can show the others, but they're not very nice. So I'm really proud of myself, and I hope everyone does well in their exam.